My stepmother-in-law and my friend's half-brother tried to get my daughter deported so I would date him. I'm 30, a single mom, and I have a 3-year-old daughter who is mixed race. I'm white, and her father is Māori from New Zealand, an Indigenous person. One of my closest college friends, let's call her Kate, is genuinely kind and wonderful. But her stepmother Pam and her stepbrother Kyle are incredibly toxic. Arrogant people. Pam used to work at an Amazon warehouse but now lives on disability benefits. Kate's father, Kenny, is a long-haul trucker. Kyle is unemployed and, as far as anyone knows, has never kept a job for more than a few months. Kate's family is originally from West Virginia, but they moved to Pennsylvania a while back. Last July, I hosted an engagement party for Kate and her fiancé, Jack, at my family's vacation home in the Catskills. I hadn't really met Pam and Kyle before then. I knew of them, but I didn't know them personally. Apparently, though, they had been watching me, my family, and my friends on Instagram and Facebook. According to Kate, Pam was jealous of our pictures, traveling, seeing friends, work events, dinners, boat trips, everything. She demanded to be invited to the engagement party so she could mingle with my friends, my family and my colleagues from the museum and the university. Since Pam and Kyle basically have no social life, I agreed just so she would stop bothering Kate. Kate told me some background about Kyle beforehand. Pam babied him his entire life. He was pulled out of regular school in elementary because Pam didn't like that he kept getting in trouble for bullying and other antisocial behavior. When the school raised concerns about his mental health and sexist attitudes, Pam was furious. She never disciplined him, she actually encouraged him. Kenny tried to set boundaries, but Pam punished Kate instead for even tiny mistakes. Kyle grew up believing he was entitled to anything and that there would never be consequences. He has no friends, no social skills, and zero understanding of boundaries. At the party, Pam and Kyle were completely out of place. Pam kept trying to advertise Kyle to my girlfriends. Kyle, meanwhile, was awkward and unable to hold a normal conversation. Later, he started flirting with me. I kept my answers polite but short, until he called my daughter a half-breed and said I should get rid of her so I could date him. I lost it. I yelled at him and Pam to get out of my family's house. Pam got angry, accused me of disrespecting her son, demanded an apology, and started screaming at my guests, most of whom were my friends and colleagues. I called both Pam and Kyle racist and misogynistic. They only left when they realized absolutely no one was on their side, and we were about to call the police. Afterward, Pam and Kyle kept messaging me and Kate, ranting about how humiliated they were. Pam called us snobs, saying we thought we were better than them. She demanded an apology and insisted I should go on a date with Kyle and give him a chance. I blocked Pam but forgot to block Kyle. Fast forward to late March. ICE showed up at my family's home on the Upper East Side, Pam. And Kyle had reported my daughter as an undocumented immigrant, even though she's a U.S. citizen born in Boston, and I'm her mother. I immediately called my grandfather's firm, and he sent 2 lawyers. They spoke to the ICE agents while I provided documents proving my daughter's citizenship. Kate told me Pam and Kyle did this because they didn't want a non-white child in their family, and Pam somehow thought getting my daughter deported would make me date Kyle. My family and I decided to sue. Our lawyers reported Pam and Kyle's false claim to the DHS, Office of Inspector General. Filing a knowingly false report with ICE is a federal crime. Whether DHS pursues a criminal investigation is up to them, separate from our civil case. Kate and Jack originally wanted to cut off Pam and Kyle completely. But because of family ties, it wasn't simple. Kenny had been absent a lot due to work and used to tell Kate to just do what Pam wants to keep the peace. It damaged their relationship, but he's finally trying to repair things and set boundaries with Pam. Still, Kate can't fully cut Pam and Kyle off without losing contact with her father. I understood her situation and supported her decision to keep minimal contact. She promised not to tell them anything about me and to warn me if they tried something. A few days after the ICE incident, Kyle contacted me again from a different number. He was furious that my daughter hadn't been deported. He told me to put her up for adoption or send her to her father, repeated that they didn't want a mixed kid in their family, and said he wanted my daughter gone so we could be together. I told him any further communication had to go through our lawyers and hung up. Pam and Kyle kept calling from various numbers, leaving unhinged voicemails, all demanding that I talk to them. Pam even called me a bad daughter-in-law. Kate warned me they were in a full meltdown. Pam kept complaining. She couldn't afford another lawsuit because she lives on disability, and Kyle is unemployed. Kyle is obsessed with me, and Pam is determined to give her son the perfect wife who will take care of both of them. Kenny is furious with Pam and Kyle and keeps telling them to stop and leave me alone. But they don't listen. Our lawyers contacted Pam's attorney, her older brother, Rob. Rob wanted to settle before going to court. So we arranged a meeting at my grandfather's office in Long Island City. It was me, my father, our two attorneys Rob, Pam, and Kyle. Rob was polite, professional, and seemed reasonable, until Pam started talking. The moment we discussed terms, she insisted I should drop the lawsuit, saying things like, "You're going to be my son's wife someday, so start acting like it." She said I should be grateful her son was even interested in me because not many men want to deal with a single mother. The irony is that Pam herself was a single mother before marrying Kate's dad. Pam then said that my daughter isn't like us, and that I and her son would someday give her a grandchild who actually looks like the family. She turned to my father and said, "Our families are meant to be one. We're the same kind of people as you." Rob looked mortified and kept trying to get his sister to stop talking. My father calmly told her that our families were nothing alike. We didn't share their beliefs or values, and that my daughter is his granddaughter, and that we have absolutely nothing in common with Pam and Kyle. My attorney reminded everyone that the only purpose of the meeting was to discuss a possible settlement, and that Pam and Kyle were in no position to demand anything. Pam ignored him and launched into another tirade. She complained that it wasn't fair she had worked half her life on minimum wage and was now on disability, while my family wastes money on Christmas parties, boat trips, vacations, and good schools for that immigrant daughter. That's what she kept calling my child. Pam insisted that she and Kyle deserve all of that more than my daughter does. She said it wasn't fair that we show off our lives on social media, but don't invite her and Kyle. While we invite Kate, who again is one of my closest friends, she added that people like her, again referring to my daughter, shouldn't exist in her vision of America. At that point, our lawyers asked Pam and Kyle, "If you're not here to discuss a settlement, then what exactly are you here for?" That's when Kyle spoke up. He said he demanded that my family drop the lawsuit and that I follow his conditions, give up my daughter, agree to date him, and in exchange he would allow me to keep my job, but all of my income would go to him because he will control our finances, he added. "I'll be the man of the house, so you'll have to listen to me." I replied, "What house?" "You live in an apartment with your mom." Kyle jumped up and tried to come toward me, but Rob grabbed him, and my father and one of our attorneys immediately stepped between us. The second attorney stepped out to call building security. Pam started screaming at her brother, her own lawyer, for stopping Kyle. A few minutes later, security arrived and tried to escort Pam and Kyle out of the office. Kyle broke free and tried to run back into the conference room. Several staff members managed to stop him. He started swinging at two security guards and the employees holding him back. He ended up cornered, red-faced, fists up, screaming incoherently at everyone around him. When I saw that, I told the receptionist to call the police. As soon as Pam realized the police were on their way, she tried to grab the receptionist's phone, and I had to hold her back. Pam screamed insults at the receptionist, then dragged Kyle toward the elevator. They both ran out of the building before the police arrived. When officers came, we all gave statements. The injured security guards and staff members said they planned to press charges against both Pam and Kyle. Afterward, we spoke with Rob, who apologized and said he only took the case because they're family. We also filed for a restraining order against Pam and Kyle so that any future contact would have to go through attorneys. Additionally, because Kyle assaulted security and office staff, my grandfather's firm decided to file its own separate lawsuit against them. Even after the incident, Pam and Kyle kept sending messages to me and my father from new numbers and fake Facebook accounts. Pam accused me of destroying their future, demanded that we drop the lawsuit, and insisted we make the police leave Kyle alone. She claimed I was ruining her son's life and called my family selfish. Kyle threatened to put me in my place. Per our lawyer's instructions, we didn't answer anything. We just documented every message and forwarded everything to the legal team to decompress from all the stress Pam and Kyle had caused. I took a week-long trip to Mexico. When I came back to the U.S., I had a dinner with friends at a restaurant on Park Avenue. Kate apologized again for her stepmother's and stepbrother's behavior. I reassured her that none of this was her fault. Kate told me that she, her father, and Rob have all been trying to convince Pam to agree to a settlement because they simply can't afford a long court battle. Pam and Kyle already have outstanding debts, and Kenny has essentially been paying their legal expenses out of his savings. Last week, my attorneys met with Rob again. He said that Pam and her husband decided they would rather just pay me a settlement and close the case. On top of my lawsuit, they're also dealing with a separate claim filed by my grandfather's firm. Kyle, meanwhile, has basically gone into hiding because he knows we reported him to the police. Pam and Kyle still owe money, and Pam has been even more miserable lately. Kenny finally decided to put most of what's left of his savings toward my settlement, since the rest of their money, plus their credit, is needed to pay off other debts and legal bills. Kate has made it clear she will not be helping her stepmother or stepbrother financially. She and Jack have their own lives, their own bills, and they're saving for their wedding later this year, and for their planned move to the West Coast sometime next year. They were originally supposed to get married last December, but after Jack was injured and medical bills piled up, they postponed the wedding to this September. Update number 1. First, for the people who think this story is made up, I get it. My life has turned into something that feels like an episode of The Jerry Springer Show, and even I sometimes have trouble believing it. Second, regarding Pam and Kyle's behavior, according to Kate and her father, Pam was diagnosed with schizophrenia years ago but refuses treatment. And as I mentioned earlier, Kyle had several episodes of antisocial behavior as a child that got him pulled out of school, but he was never formally evaluated because Pam wouldn't allow it. We did get the restraining order granted against both Pam and Kyle. As for the settlement payment, it's essentially coming from Kenny, Kate's father and Pam's husband, because he's the only one in that household with an income. Yes, Kate and her fiancé Jack both work and earn their own money, but they are not funding Pam or Kyle in any way. They're planning to relocate to the West Coast around December or early January. Kate also shared more about Pam and Kyle's possible motivations. Since Kate was a child, she and her father noticed that Pam was obsessed with the idea of becoming wealthy. Kate clearly remembers Pam telling Kyle, "Marry rich." Over time, Pam developed a firm belief that she deserved more. "I'm from a financially comfortable family. Yes, my mom is an attorney, though she doesn't work at my grandfather's firm, and my dad works at an asset management company. But our Manhattan home, the vacation houses, the boat, and most of everything else technically belong to my grandfather and my dad's side of the family. I have a career and an income, but since I live with my parents, who cover most of the household expenses, I barely have any major costs. If I lived on my own, I'd probably struggle financially. That's why I don't consider myself wealthy. I don't actually own much, and I won't inherit anything until my grandfather passes away. Because of this, I believe Pam and Kyle targeted me, thinking that if I stayed with Kyle, my family would end up supporting both of them and funding the lifestyle they wanted. It's also worth mentioning that Kenny himself comes from a fairly well-off farming family in South Carolina, but his father cut him off years ago because of Pam's behavior. According to Kate, Pam tried to steal money from Kenny's father and even forged his signature. Kenny sided with Pam at the time, and yes, we do have security systems both at the Manhattan house and at our places in Catskill and Boston. Second update. Earlier today, I got news I wanted to share. Kelly, Kate's half-brother who stalked me and tried to get my daughter deported, was arrested at a shopping center in Louisville, Kentucky. According to Kate, Kyle had been staying with his aunt in Kentucky, and her cousins told her that he was detained after getting into a fight with shoppers and employees at a Kroger supermarket. The exact cause of the altercation is still unclear. From what I understand, Kyle also assaulted a police officer inside the Kroger while resisting arrest. So on top of the charges he already has in New York, he now has these as well.